Oh, yeah, you hear us knocking? Let us in. Boston has entered the chat officially. Travis Thomas here with my man, George Balekji. And, here on Boston has entered the chat, we do any and all things Boston sports and pop culture. GB, how you doing, my man?
Doing great. Not going to lie. Seeing that little text bubble come up, see Boston enter the chat. Get this started with you, my main man. Been with you since day one, since you've been here.
Yes.
Feel special.
Yes.
I feel excited. I feel ready. And like you said, we're going to talk everything Boston sports.
Yep.
And shoot, we got some stuff in the canon right now, too. We're talking national as well. So anything, and give us your input. Tweet at us on X. Comment on our Instagrams. Follow NESN, us on all socials as well. Let us hear you, because Boston has entered the chat. It's not about us.
That's right.
It's about Boston. It's about you guys, a passion for sports here in one of the best sports cities in the world.
That's well said. Now I want to hear what you say and get this off my chest. This is how we start every Boston has entered the chat. One of us, if not both of us, will get something off of our chest. So, GB, you do the honors on the inaugural first ever Boston has entered the chat.
What I got to get off my chest is Boston sports fans, New England Patriots fans, be patient with the Patriots. Be patient with Drake Maye. Look, the Pats did the right thing taking him number 3 overall, because if you're going quarterback, go with the highest ceiling, the guy with the best arm talent, very athletic, and built like a pro. But it's still a project. Clean up the footwork, clean up the accuracy. His processing is slow. He's now going to learn a whole new system in college. And, of course, you don't want to rush him into a bad situation when you don't have an offensive line. Who's playing left tackle? Who's your wide receiver one? Is Juju Smith-Schuster healthy? Alex Van Pelt as offensive coordinator, first time he'll ever call plays in his NFL career. A lot of new things for Drake Maye, but you don't want to rush him into playing, because you saw what happened with the last quarterback you drafted. And for the Patriots in general, we saw what they did with this draft. Go out, get your quarterback. Go out, get 2 receivers that suit his strengths, which I love. But you also saw him do some questionable things. Get a right tackle, draft another guard. Yeah. The 4th guard they've taken in the last 3 drafts. This is a new regime, a new front office, still a lot of rebuilding to do to take over for the drafts that Bill Belichick has dropped. Sure. And Bill Belichick, the GM, the status he's left them in. So if you're a Patriots fan, you have to be patient, because this is a multi-year rebuild, and be patient with Drake Maye. I want to see him by the end of the season, but you don't want to rush him onto the field, because he's praised for his toughness, his leadership. But catching licks in the NFL is a whole different story. Let him build his IQ. Let him catch up to the speed of the NFL. Let him get situated behind an offensive line that's still a work in progress, and let him build his chemistries with the receivers you drafted for him.
Listen, I think that's well said. I'm looking at this group now as you talk. If we took the names out, and obviously we're going to talk about the names, but if I told you from what we all watched last season with this Patriots offense, which was an abomination. I mean, they were awful. They were dead last in the NFL. What more do you need to know?
Worst offense of the Patricia Judge experiment.
So listen, if I took the names away, and I just told you now, after watching that last season, this is what they did in the draft. Quarterback, wide receiver, 2 offensive linemen, a tackle and a guard, wide receiver, corner, a quarterback, and a tight end. And I didn't have names attached. You would say, hey, you know what? They addressed the offense, at least. They addressed the elephant in the room. For that, I like this draft class, George.
I love it, because I said you need to rebuild that quarterback room, and they did. They got 2 rookies, including Joe Milton in the 6th round. The tight end they got, Jaheim Bell, I love that, because he's not a tight end. He's 6'2", 240. He's undersized, but he's a pass catcher, good with the ball in his hands, good after the catch. Get multiple pass catchers actually at outside receiver, which you need to do, because you look at the receiving room, you look at the offensive line room. Quarterback was their biggest need, because they had no starter once they traded away Mac Jones, and they had a top 3 pick. But offensive line was their biggest need, because they don't have a left tackle. Wide receiver and playmakers were their biggest need, because this offense was so devoid of talent last year. I love what they did in the draft. It was chalk. They stayed straight up. And coming from someone that said, if you're going to trade back, get multiple firsts.
Yes.
They didn't trade back, and I'm fine with that. You went chalk. You went with what you needed, and you got good guys. Value picks, and also just people that fit a system. You didn't go out, because I was all for it. Go ahead and get Adonai Mitchell. Right. But if you don't see him fitting your system and fitting Drake Maye, get Jalen Polk. Good route runner, gets open, comfortable over the middle. Javon Baker's value pick too. He will be with Devontae Parker, what they always wanted him to be. Right. You got receivers that fit Drake Maye's strength, and you also built around it and just got depth to this offense, because that's what needs to be done.
Okay, so we're talking about the group collectively here, and we both are happy with it. Let's get into specifics now. Who's the best pick from this group. Because for me, I'm going Captain Obvious here with Drake Maye. And
No
you
hate
said
on
it.
that.
Well, you said it. Look, it's a need. We all knew it was a need. I don't hate that Jacoby Brissett is going to be my starter. I think where George and I differ slightly, and I don't even think it's that dramatic, he's saying, as he told you and Get Off My Chest, be patient with Drake Maye, in which I agree. He also said this rebuild's going to take a few years. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think with this defense, if it can live up to its potential, and we all know potential can get people fired in this league, but assuming that they stay healthy and they can live up to their potential, I believe Drake Maye is inheriting a really good potential to be great defense. With that being said, Jacoby Brissett is a kind of quarterback that won't lose you games, but Drake Maye, with his upside, why you brought him here, why you drafted him number 3 overall, why in many talent evaluators' eyes he was the 3rd best quarterback available. We didn't see J.J. McCarthy go here, like all the rumors, right? We didn't see Penix go here. Drake Maye was the 3rd quarterback taken off the board for a reason. I believe it's because he is a dynamic playmaker, dual threat. We understand rocket cannon arm. We get all of it. But he's dynamic enough where once he gets his feet wet, once he's comfortable in this offense enough, how long is that? I don't know. A month? 6 weeks? Whatevs. Put him in there because he is dynamic enough where if your defense, George, keeps you in some of these games, which I have to imagine we both believe they will.
Yep.
They'll be close. Patriots are going to cover a lot of spreads this season, I would think. Drake Maye can come in and be the difference of winning or losing. Now, he may throw a couple away, too. You got to live, you're going to have to live with that with a young quarterback, regardless of who it is. It could have been Caleb Williams here. You're going to have to live with that. But I believe Drake Maye, on a positive level, the pros of why you draft him, some of those games, he's going to win with his arm and his legs. That's why I don't want to wait too long on Drake Maye.
21 years old, 2 years as a starter at UNC.
Yeah.
His junior year, 2022.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do my
that's
math.
right.
He actually led the team in rushing. That shows his athletic ability. Look, arm strength-wise, you have Justin Herbert. This is a guy that can attack every area of the field, has a bazooka of an arm, but has that gunslinger mentality. Now, given at UNC this past year, what did he have to overcome? Losing his offensive coordinator to Wisconsin, losing his top 2 receivers to the NFL draft. Tez Walker dealt with eligibility issues. His offensive line was terrible.
Yeah.
And now he did have good pieces. I mean, in next year's draft, his guy Nesbitt is actually going to be one of the best tight ends as a pass catcher.
Yep.
Then following that, his running back will be a running back 4 or 5, as we'll see on big boards. But still, had to do a lot, had to play a lot of games, had to win a lot of games and wear that all. Would I come in with the patience? If I see him by week 14 and he plays the final 3 games this season, I'm fine. Get him those real game reps. But don't rush him into week 6, week 7, where you're like, oh, we're middling. We're kind of vying and fighting for that division lead.
Sure.
Because understand what this roster is. And why I say it's a multi-year rebuild, think about it like this. You went from Matt Patricia, who's your OC, to Bill O'Brien the last 2 years. And think about the draft picks you're dealing with right now. Cole Strange was 29th overall. Tyquan Thornton was the 50th overall pick. Those are Matt Patricia draft picks.
Yeah.
So the following draft, they had to overcome that and make some signings they didn't want to, like Juju Smith-Schuster.
Right.
But you're changing a personnel philosophy. Again, they have to hit reset.
Yeah.
It'll take a couple years to get that out. I think defensively, Matt Judon will have a void year after this. Your best defensive end, but coming off a torn pec, how will he be? Josh Uche, prove a deal. Dietrich Wise out the door. You lost Lawrence Guy. David Andrews is getting that up in years. It's going to take multi-drafts to get the players in and obviously multiple goes at free agency. That's why it's going to be a multi-year rebuild to actually get back into the playoffs and then be serious when the Patriots are in the playoffs. It's going to have to be patient, but I'll tell you this. I'm not down with it taking too long because they haven't won a playoff game since they won the Super Bowl in the 18-19 season. Haven't won a playoff game since then.
Long overdue. Now, I'll say this. Outside of the ability of a Drake Maye, he's also my favorite because he's fun. I mean, have you been seeing all the content coming out with this kid? We're learning so much stuff about him. He's scared of heights. How about this? His brother's poking fun at him as well. Take a listen to this.
Pretty boy. Overrated.
Are you serious? Are you serious? I was getting emotional for a sec, but now I'm laughing now. Who let him say that?
I love that. I mean, look, for years we had Belichick grumbling, bumbling, stumbling, mumbling. He couldn't make out anything. He didn't want to talk to you. Brady was always right down the barrel, straight-laced, politically correct. Gerard Mayo, look, he said some things along the way. I'm like, oh, don't say you're going to burn cash and then you don't, or don't, right? Drake May, fun. It is refreshing, George. I'm looking forward to the new regime, if you will.
I love that because you see someone that obviously is the youngest of those brothers, and that was his brother Luke, Cole, Bo as well. Luke, of course, won an Addy with UNC. That's just big brothers keeping you humble. You know what I mean?
Right.
And saying, hey, you have this big moment, but let's mess with them. Going, obviously, with their own version of the Fab Five of how they're describing Christian Laettner. That's where they ripped it from, that ESPN 30 for 30. But I just love seeing that because you see him said, I was about to get emotional. He starts laughing. And it's just, that's what the brothers are, keeping you grounded, keeping you humble in your own way. And you know what they're doing in a way? Like, we're going to be all sappy and special. But that's a family of athletes. Brother Luke won a national championship in NC basketball. His brother Cole won a natty at Florida as a pitcher. His dad played at UNC for 4 years as a quarterback, was a grad assistant for Mac Brown. This comes from a background of athletes, people that have had to earn what they do. And him being what he is at 21, they know he has to come in and earn it. And he said it too. I'm excited to work with Jacoby Brissett. Everything the NFL has to come earn. He said his first words was, I'm stoked. What do you hear that? But it's from a 21-year-old kid that just got drafted and their dream came true. I loved the pick, to get back to your original question, because if you're going quarterback at 3, you didn't go J.J. McCarthy. You went with the higher ceiling. Yes, you went with the lower floor, but you went with the much higher ceiling, and this is a guy that can have you in the upper echelon of the NFL conversation for the next 10 years. J.J. McCarthy will be good, but you don't want Alex Smith. You want Justin Herbert. You want Josh Allen, and that's what you can get with Drake May.
Yeah, listen, credit to you, because you called it lying season. The closer we were getting to the draft and all the noise around J.J. McCarthy, you never bought it, and you were right. Now, I don't like saying the worst pick of this group, because I just play Mel Kiper Jr. on TV. I'm not actually him. Jaheim Bell to me feels like, 7th round pick, may or may not make the team.
I love that pick.
As you said, he's a little bit undersized, so I have no idea.
But he's a weapon.
I don't know.
That's a Florida State guy. That's your team.
I know, but I've also heard a lot of people poke holes at why did they draft Joe Milton when, they got Drake May. Listen, Drake May needs some seasoning on him, okay? Some. Joe Milton needs to marinate overnight, some seasoning. This guy is a raw talent project here, but he is, no question, he can throw a football a quarter mile. He's as fast as lightning. He's big and strong. The guy looks like a superhero. He just, he's going to take some time here. So I don't mind that as a project. I can't really look at this entire group and say any of these guys, is the worst pick. Who, as you look at this, and you know this stuff, you study this stuff down to a science of who should be drafted where. Here's maybe a better question than worst pick of the group. Do you feel as though any of these guys were a reach at where the Patriots took them?
And that goes with my worst pick. I'd say Caden Wallace, who's a right tackle. Look, 40 career starts at right tackle at Penn State, which is good. That's someone that's seasoned, good in pass pro, but you have Mike Onwenu as your starting right tackle.
Right.
You have Chuck Okorafor, who you signed as a free agent, and you're saying, well, we have confidence in Chuck to play the left side. He has almost 4,000 career snaps at right tackle in the NFL in 6 years. 2 career snaps at left tackle.
Wow.
Caden Wallace is a career right tackle guy. Now, if you're a guard and you move from right guard to left guard or vice versa, that's not as difficult as switching if you're a right tackle to left tackle, because guard, you have to move left and right. You have to move both ways. But if you're a left tackle or right tackle, your stance has always been one way your entire career. Your first step, how you get out of your blocks, how you start to engage in the pass pro, or if you're pulling to your strong side or weak side, all that has been done one way for so long. So now you have Caden Wallace coming out of Penn State. You have to teach him how. Then you have Chuck Okorafor, who's a pro at this point. You teach him how to be left tackle. You have a gaping hole. So I would say that's a reach, but there was a late run at offensive tackle.
Right.
So that, to me, that's the worst pick. I understand the prospect. You have a lot of experience with it. I do, I hold my breath for all these guys. You have to say they're projecting Caden Wallace maybe to switch to the left side, maybe see with Mike Onwenu. But you needed a left tackle, and you got a right tackle. Just get a left tackle in that spot.
What about Steele? Because I'm looking at both of these receivers as possible, Polk and Baker. Obviously, this wide receiving room, we don't know who the hell is going to be the man, so to speak. So I have no problem giving a chance to either one of these rooks. we could look back on this draft over time and say both of these guys or one of these guys was the steal of this class. Who do you like in the Patriots draft class as a steal?
I go Jaheim Bell, actually,
Okay.
7th round pick. Now, the reason I do that, I said it, 6'2", 240.
Yeah.
He's undersized for a tight
Kind of
end.
a tweener.
But you know what? That's fine. You have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, who are your inline tight ends. And
Right.
Austin Hooper, second time for him, playing for Alex Van Pelt. So already knows the system. And I said the Patriots need to draft a tight end because you have two pros, consummate pros, in front of him.
Yeah.
So they could teach him how to win the system and just being in the NFL. But what you get with Jaheim Bell is more of an H-back. He's undersized, but a good athlete, especially after the catch. He's a big slot, pass-catching back. He could play fullback. Watch the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Juszczyk, Juice, number 44.
Yeah.
That could be Jaheim Bell. Put him all over the field. Let him be a mismatch nightmare for a guy. Is okay at blocking. Not a great run blocker. Not a great route runner, but just get open, short yardage, get the ball out, check down, and he'll be a chain mover. I'm completely fine with that, especially as a 7th-round pick. That's a flyer.
Yeah.
That's undrafted free agent. And to your Joe Milton point, too, I would have rather seen a Sam Hartman there because I said you have to redo your entire quarterback room because Mac Jones is Mac Jones. Nathan Rourke isn't good. Bailey Zappi undersized. A backup quarterback has to be someone you can trust to get in there and start and not drive the offense into the ground.
Sure.
And if they need to start multiple games, can they keep the train on the tracks, right? I don't think Bailey Zappi is that guy. I don't think Joe Milton is it either. I would have rather seen a Sam Hartman, pro style, simpler game manager. But with Joe Milton, they're going, this guy could be another big ceiling, massive arm.
Yes.
So let's go with him. It's just a matter of you don't have to throw it deep. His deep ball placement is always all over the place. But he
Yeah.
has a massive arm. Good athlete, too. So
Yep.
it really is. You got Drake May, who we know the ceiling could be as a better pro quarterback. And then you
Yep.
got Joe Milton, who's a more raw, less developed, less fundamentally sound Drake May.
Right.
So your
fair,
offense,
fair.
if you have Drake May going and you like Joe Milton, you don't
Yeah.
have to change anything with
That's
your
right.
offense.
If you
So I
have
see
those
what
two
they're
in
doing.
the future. Well said. Look, I'm going to the 4th round, Javon Baker, this
I like that.
receiver out of UCF. I mean, listen, he's already making splashes around here with all kinds of quotes saying what he's all about. But look, our esteemed producer here at NESN, JJ, went to UCF, and he told me this kid is for real. There's a quote there. I mean, this kid is no joke at all. I'm a big fan of UCF when they play at the Bounce House, so I'm sure I've seen this kid score touchdowns and didn't even know it. But look, I'll go him because, as I said, whoever is the alpha in that wide receiver room, come on down and make a play. We are all waiting on you. Let's stick with this draft here and rip through a couple, more picks around the league and explain if these guys were drafted too high, did they reach or not. Let's go Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall to the Falcons. Now, look, if the Falcons got Penix in the 20s somewhere, George, and he was just still on the board, they were there and he was there, and they said, you know what, we're going to take him. He's insurance to Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles who's older, couple years on that contract guaranteed, and then we'll go to Penix. I would say that may be the steal of the draft. But taking him at 8, when your defense is atrocious, your offense is already set, bro, and Kirk Cousins is not 100 years old here. Yes, you have a couple years guaranteed with him, but he certainly, as long as he's protected, he should have more of a runway left in his career to still play at a pretty high level. Penix is not a guy. We just talked about Joe Milton, Drake May, some of these dudes who need to sit. That's not Michael Penix. So now you're telling me you have to sit Michael Penix for 2 years? Now, I'm all for having two really good quarterbacks in this league. I think it's very important. Case in point, I think about the Indianapolis Colts, who had a rookie quarterback last year, remember? Anthony Richardson. He gets hurt. They go to a veteran, Gardner Minshew. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were damn close, George. So I understand, and we have countless examples in this league of if you have two decent quarterbacks, you're doing something. But I just think it was a reach for Michael Penix at 8 for the Falcons. They had other needs they should have focused on defense.
I agree, too. In the gut reaction that first round night is like, what are you doing? You just paid Kirk
Yes.
Cousins. $100 million guaranteed 4-year deal. But when you look at the numbers, it's $90 million in the first 2 years. And they saved $32.5 million if they cut him after that second season. So you bring Michael Penix in, who's ready to start right now. Could be a starting quarterback. And you're right. Like, why is he sitting for 2 years? All right, well, Kirk Cousins coming off a torn Achilles. If you don't love that, what do you do with him? At the same time, And you'd have to flip your entire offense because Michael Penix is a lefty, Kirk Cousins is a righty. But they go out, they stare at him, and credit to the front office of the Falcons. They came out and said, we won't be in this spot again. We understand the situation we are with Kirk. We're drafting for the future, too. We don't plan to be top 10 again, so you have to get a quarterback in the spot when you can. Michael Penix will start. He'll be 26 by the time he's a starter if it's on schedule for this. So then you enter rare territory. That's Brandon Weeden making your first career start when you're older than 24 years old. Doesn't bode well. So he would have to be an anomaly. Yes, definitely a reach. But I just see the Falcons' forecast of we have our guy now. Let's get our guy for later. He sits a few years, learns the system as well, and we'll see the receivers around him, what happens down the road. Look at Patrick Mahomes sat a year, and I'm not saying Michael Penix is Patrick Mahomes. Jordan Love sat a couple of years before finally getting a start, and he was very raw. He was a huge project, but the Packers identified him, made a move for the future when they had to, and while they still had a starting quarterback in place. So that's what they did with Penix. I don't hate that, and what I would have liked them to see is go defense. Look at their next 3 picks. Ahura, 35th overall, very versatile defensive lineman. Yeah, he's a defensive tackle. He can go from 0 tech to 5 tech. Braylon Trice out of Washington, very productive edge rusher. And then Brandon Dorless out of Oregon, 46 pressures as a defensive tackle. So they went heavy on the D-line. At linebacker, got something in the secondary. They have all the receivers set, their offensive line, their quarterbacks. It was an unorthodox draft. Definitely a reach. My one thing I would say to the Falcons, you're sitting there at 8. Trade with the Vikings. Say, hey, you want to make sure the Broncos don't jump here and get J.J. McCarthy? We'll slide back to 11. Just give us some more later on picks. Or go to the Broncos. You want to leap ahead of the Vikings? Same thing to the Raiders. You want J.J. McCarthy? You're sitting at 13. They could give up a lot and jump ahead. Falcons didn't do that. So that's why, to me, I think that was a big reach for Michael Penix.
Listen, man, I'm with you there. They could have went other ways. It's nothing against Michael Penix Jr. If anything, I'm ticked off I don't get to watch him for a couple years. All right, Bo Nix going 12th overall to the Broncos. Many have suggested this was a reach by the Broncos. If this is any other team taking Bo Nix here at that spot, I would probably agree that it was a bit of a reach, and I'm a Bo Nix fan. But I think uniquely to Denver's need, they need a quarterback. Sean Payton values accuracy. He values, from a young quarterback, he values big game experience. Bo Nix has that. He's a grown-up. I think this works. I mean, now it's unique to the Broncos. 12, okay, I get it if you're saying it's a reach, but I think because of the player's specific fit to the franchise, this was the right move by the Broncos, George.
I'll tell you, I think it was a reach. I don't like Bo Nix at the pro level, but, I mean, this is my scouting report on him. Can sneak in the top 15, accuracy, timing, athleticism outside of the pocket. Give credit, Sean Payton wants to work with him. They just need to get him receivers. Remember, Jerry Jeudy is in Cleveland. 8,000 yards, 74 touchdowns, just 10 interceptions at Oregon.
Big games,
but his average depth of target was below 7. Yeah, and he played in big games. 30% of his completions behind the line of scrimmage, so a ton of screens. But if you could work him along, then I'm fine with that. I saw him as a top 20 pick, so obviously the Broncos took him as such. I wouldn't have touched him until the second round. But it is also what we see in today's modern NFL. It's supply and demand, and the supply of quarterbacks doesn't match the demand that there is. That's why you saw J.J. McCarthy picked where he was. That's why you saw Michael Penix picked where he was, and Bo Nix. I think it was a reach, but the Broncos need a quarterback, and they're in dire need. And Sean Payton and George Patton, the GM there in Denver, clock's ticking on them. Hey, you got Russ. You still paid him $85 million to go away. What are you going to do? You have to figure out the books. And the way you give Russ $85 million to leave is you get a rookie-scale contract at quarterback.
You sort of reset the clock there. All right, I'm going to dish to you here. I need you to go back to your big board evaluations here for these two players. Were these reaches? First running back off the board, 46th overall to the Panthers, Jonathan Brooks, and then Caden Wallace, the lineman we saw come here to the Patriots at 68th overall. Either or both reaches?
Both reaches. I think Jonathan Brooks, the Panthers, you already have running backs in your room. You have Chuba Hubbard on a rookie-scale contract. But you have a new, obviously, OC and head coach in Dave Canales. But Brooks coming off a torn ACL. We'll see how he is this season. 46 overall, given there was a running back taken in the beginning of the third round. I just see that spot just doesn't make sense to me for a very deep draft when it comes to running back. Why selecting someone there when there's a lot more needs throughout this team, like continuing to build out your receiver room? They went and got Xavier Legette, 33rd overall.
Yes, we love
so
that.
Good, you have that big weapon, but he's still a project. But Dave Canales, to see what he could do. He had DK Metcalf in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
He had Michael Evans in Tampa. Now he has Xavier Legette, so it makes sense that he would land there. Caden Wallace, I said it before, but if you go tackle there and you go someone you have to develop and teach how to play left tackle, Kieran Amagaji out of Yale. Now he would make the jump from the FCS, obviously, to the NFL, so competition is big, but you go there. And the tough part, too, I had him on my radar. I had the Patriots taking him 34th overall, but Kingsley Suamataia taking 5 picks ahead of Caden Wallace, and he went to the Kansas City Chiefs. If Andy Reid likes him and I like him, then that makes me feel a lot smarter than I am because I'm not smart at all. But that's where you want those fits. It's just where you got him. And again, it's a right tackle when you need a left tackle. That's why I feel like it was a reach in that spot. But you look at the Patriots draft overall, because when I dig in on Wallace, Jalen Polk in the second round, 34 overall, because of that run in the first round where a defensive player wasn't taken until 15th overall, Jalen Polk, who had a third round grade on, becomes a second round receiver. And he's good. Good route runner, good catch radius, strong hands, confident over the middle, and that's where Drake Maye likes to throw it. Give him someone reliable. Same thing, Javon Baker. I like that pick too. Possession receiver. He is what the Patriots wanted Devontae Parker to be. What the Patriots are building right now is a receiver room full of wide receiver twos, which I'm fine with. Look at the Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed, Christian Wallace, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dubs. None of those guys are a breakout wide receiver one, but you have a lot of pass catchers. And guys, Luke Musgrave, a lot of guys that will get open. Give your rookie quarterback a lot of options, and you're rebuilding this roster, getting cheap, figure it out.
And, in Green Bay, those young wide receivers are growing with, simultaneously, that
Build
young
that
quarterback.
chemistry.
They're building that chemistry with that young quarterback. It's going to happen here as well. Let's go to draft winners and losers as we stick with the draft here. Give me your winners from this draft. And I don't know how you have the most picks in the draft and you're not considered a winner. The Arizona Cardinals had 12 picks in this draft. And, George, again, I did this exercise earlier. We understand Marvin Harrison Jr. is great. Everyone wanted him around here in New England. But if you just take the names out, and I told you positions from this draft for the Arizona Cardinals, a team who has holes all over that roster. I mean, they have more holes than Swiss cheese. If I just told you this, the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, a quarterback, did this in the draft. Wide receiver, edge rusher, corner, running back, tackle, offensive tackle, tight end, corner, safety, edge rusher, another offensive tackle, wide receiver, corner. I mean, they won the draft. They had the most picks. They filled out a roster. I think the Cardinals, by the way, in a division now, Aaron Donald retires. Matt Stafford ain't getting any younger with the Rams. Seattle, new coach. We'll see. Geno Smith still the quarterback there for now. The Niners are always tough, but how many times are you going to go to the Super Bowl and lose it if you're them? I just think the Cardinals are kind of trending in the right direction. And then, obviously, I already told you how I feel about the Patriots. I think they're winners as well with their draft class. Who are your winners?
Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the second best overall prospect in this draft behind Caleb Williams. You get him at 4. Benefit of everyone picking in front of you needing a quarterback. I like Darius Robinson out of Missouri, Max Mellon out of Rutgers, good cornerback, and that's a guy that's really versatile in his alignments. Trey Benson at running back, and even look at the later ones like Tip Raymond, the tight end out of Illinois. That's a red zone target for Kyler Murray. Elijah Jones, a cornerback out of Boston College, learned from Jeff Hafley, who was coach at the NFL level, so you know he'll come ready. And even someone like Christian Jones, that's a project of a tackle. So I agree. I like what the Cardinals did. You have all those picks, and they hit on them a lot. To me, the winner is Caleb Williams because you go to the Chicago Bears, who aren't your normal run-of-the-mill number 1 overall picking team.
Right.
But because that is a Carolina Panthers pick who desperately needed the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft, Caleb Williams falls into a great situation. Keenan Allen there on a 1-year deal. DJ Moore, 2 years left on his contract. They go out and get Rome Odunze, a great complementary receiver, but you have 3 wide receiver ones. And Odunze, like you, Caleb, is under 5 years of team control and will learn behind 2 All-Pros, and that's chemistry that'll mature over the years. Braxton Jones on one side, Darnell Wright on the other. There's so much team control and rookie scale contracts on the 3 most important positions on the offensive side of the ball: tackle, quarterback, and wide receiver. Play catcher, playmaker. That's what you have. So Caleb Williams falls into a great spot. And yes, it's the Bears, but it's Shane Waldron as your offensive coordinator. Look what he did to resurrect Geno Smith's career. Get him with a kid like Caleb Williams, who is Aaron Rodgers, is Patrick Mahomes. At worst is Kyler Murray. And keep it in mind, we saw what Caleb did at USC. Terrible defense. worst offensive line out of the top 3 quarterback prospects, and okay receivers, nothing spectacular. He's in the best situation possible for number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears are legitimate contenders in the NFC, and then they keep pulling in picks for the offense. I love what Ryan Poles is doing there. Same thing, I'll go Vikings, because you get J.J. McCarthy, who is ready to play right now, is ready to play in the NFL. You get him with Kevin O'Connell. Everything is sorted out. You have Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the game. Obviously, you have Jordan Addison. Your tackles are great, including Christian Darrisaw. Pair up J.J. McCarthy, who is a good game manager, is a good passer, played in big games, is very athletic, very underrated how athletic he is. And again, with Kevin O'Connell in a good spot. And Dallas Turner falls to Brian Flores, 17th overall.
Wow.
Credit the run. It was all offensive guys up front. And the Vikings, who are sitting at 11 and 23, trade up from 23 to 17.
Right.
You get the best edge rusher in Dallas Turner in this draft. I mean, Brian Flores has to love that.
Bro, listen, you're talking about Dallas Turner. He's almost exactly why I'm giving the Bears defense the biggest loser of this draft. Because as much as I love Odunze, I still look at this as you had enough weapons, Chicago, for God's sakes, for Caleb. Get another rush in to pair with Montez Sweat, and you are really back. I mean, now you have your monsters of the Midway. That's your brand, tough defense. You have 2 excellent pass rushers, and then Caleb and the offense can matriculate and do what they do down the field and sustain drives, and you can win games. But no, they go out. Instead, they want to be greatest show on turf, Rams style, back in the day, and they don't even play on turf. I mean, what are you doing? You should have taken Dallas Turner there. I'm going Bears defense is my loser.
It's team building over multiple years.
Yeah.
I said it. Keenan Allen's making $23 million this year. He'll be gone. DJ Moore will be gone. You're not going to pick top 10 anytime soon if everything goes as planned with Caleb Williams. So you get out and you get a guy that would have been a wide receiver 1 in any other draft. You get him in this draft.
Yep.
And you have your quarterback and your wide receiver and your tackles all on very team-friendly deals. Watch next draft. They go defensive heavy. And it's the same thing what teams are doing now. Running backs don't go in the first round anymore, or tight ends, because it doesn't make sense. You're overpaying them for what their draft slot would be and how much it would give them. But receivers, edge rushers, cornerbacks, quarterbacks, those are the first round picks because they'll make less money than what they should. You're not overpaying for them. So I understand why Chicago did what they did, but I agree with you. I expect them to go defense at 9. Loser for me, I go Josh Allen. You lost Stephon Diggs. You lost Gabe Davis. And you get Keon Coleman, who's, a good athlete, does a ton with the ball after the catch, but doesn't get any separation. If you don't get open in college, you're not going to get open in the NFL.
That's right.
And so that's my one worry with you lost a lot at receiver. And the Bills also traded back twice. Could have had Xavier Worthy, traded back. Could have had Xavier Legette, traded back. They end up with Keon Coleman. One thing, and this is what's fun, whenever you look at drafts, ESPN's Mike Reese reported this. The Patriots had an offer to the Bills for late in the first round to go from 34 to 32. So they could have gone Xavier Legette. Bills chose to go with Carolina instead. I understand that. Why would you let your division rival move up?
Sure.
Xavier Legette goes at 32. Keon Coleman at 33 to the Bills.
Yeah.
Ladd McConkey went 34th to the Chargers. Patriots traded with them. Jalen Polk at 37. You always like to look back drafts from now. Let's see how Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk are years from now, and Ladd McConkey, and see how the Patriots did. Because it could either go, hey, Jalen Polk worked out, or it could be another N'Keal Harry draft pick where you see Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, names like that.
Let's freaking hope not. All right, look. Let's go to Celtics Heat now for a little buy or sell. Game 4 tonight, as you know, GB. So tell me if you buy, i.e. you agree, or you sell, meaning you disagree for these. Celtics don't need a 40-plus point scorer to win games in this series. Buy or sell?
Buy. But they have 3 guys that can do it any given night.
Yeah.
But think about it like this. If Tatum goes out and gets you 28 and Jaylen Brown gets you 25,
right,
and then KP fills in with 20, then boom, you're already past that 60-point threshold.
That's right.
You need 3 guys that can get you that.
Yes.
And they got 3 guys that could get them 70, 75 any night.
That's right.
And then think this is a team that goes 8-9 deep. If Luke Cornett has to seriously play minutes, I mean, he's okay. But what Sam Hauser does from 3 where he could be astronomical at any point from the perimeter, what Payne Pritchard brings – they don't need a 40-point score, and they haven't needed it, and they still don't need it. Look at the averages. I mean, Tatum's averaging, 24, and they're up 3-1 on the series. So
I completely
2-1.
agree. I'm buying this as well. And to be honest, I think that's one of the advantages the Celtics have over teams like the Knicks who rely so much on Jalen Brunson. We see other teams like this that are one-trick ponies. You're basically relying on one dude to do all your scoring. The Celtics do not have that issue. So I'll buy this that you don't need a 40-plus point scorer to win games. Heat's Game 2 win was a fluke. Buy or sell?
Buy. And you think of they had to historically shoot great from the perimeter. Joe Mazzulla didn't make any adjustments. Like I'm saying that them winning a game isn't a fluke, but how they did it. Kristaps Porzingis 1 for 9 from the floor, just 6 points. Then what does he do? He comes out and is aggressive from the start. First bucket of the game from him for 3.
Right.
And the Celtics, as a defense, only allowed 14 points in the first quarter. Get out, ran with it, beat them by 20-plus points in Game 3 in Miami. It's one of those games you're going to see them drop. Coaching will come to fruition eventually.
Sure.
But it's a fluke to me because, Joe Mazzulla, you got to make an adjustment.
How
brother.
they won.
Get your whiteboard out. Crowd them on the perimeter. Run them off the three-point line. But then also how your best players shine through in Game 3.
I completely agree there. All right, buy or sell. Celtics will win this series in 5. Buy.
Tough one, buy.
Buy.
They're going to win in Miami Monday night tonight. And then they're going to win at home and close it out in 5. It's simple as that.
Yes, that's why that Game 2
Jimmy Butler
was a
still
fluke.
isn't playing.
No, he's not
like,
playing.
and you don't know if
And
he's
you know
gonna
what?
come back.
You don't want the prospect of him playing. So get this team out of there quickly.
Because imagine you drop one, you come back Game 5,
No.
Jimmy comes back, and then he
No.
can make your life hell for 3 games.
I don't want to imagine that at all. Celtics have an easy path to the NBA Finals. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Sell. There's no
Knicks.
such thing as an easy path anyways in any sport. I don't give a damn what it is.
And the Cavs defensively, or if it comes out with the Magic, 2 teams of good size.
Right.
But more importantly, it's the Knicks on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
And if Mitchell Robinson can't come back, look what they just did against the 76ers. In a dogfight, undermanned. What did we
right.
see late in the game?
That's right.
Jalen Brunson and his massive stones just taking over that game in Philly.
Yeah.
And keep this in mind, too. Knicks fans have taken over Wells Fargo Arena. They'll do the same thing. Come up to Boston. They have no problem getting in the mix with fans here. But to me, it's more importantly, it's just the mentality that Jalen Brunson has. Everyone talks about dogs, and everyone likes to say they got that dog in them. Jalen Brunson isn't a dog. He's a mother effing dog. Yeah. He's got more to him than so many dudes in this league. I love him. He's one of my favorite players to watch. You know what he's going to bring? A professional. And this is a team that doesn't back down from anything. Mitchell Robinson comes back. All of a sudden, you have 2 bigs and a third, and pressures Achua could clog up the paint, make Kristaps Porzingis' life hell, and that gives you trouble.
George, did you know that I do a fine NBA program here?
Well,
Did you know that?
I actually do know that, and I need you guys to know. For all your Boston Celtics need, check out Hold My Banner, NESN's premier Celtics podcast, hosted by Travis Thomas himself. The very first episode, Travis is joined by Antoine Walker. Yes, Celtics great. Chuck him from deep, Mr. Big Number 8. Awesome convo between you two, by the way.
Yes,
I
it
listened
was.
in a little bit. He was great. It was like 35 minutes, and Antoine would have stayed for like 3 hours. That's the type of dude he is. Check out the premiere episode of Hold My Banner wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Just search in Hold My Banner. That's hosted by Travis Thomas. You guys will get that 3 times a week. And, of course, got to shout out our guy, Ante Campbell, who joins you on the show as well.
You know, George, Twan and I, even though we just
Twan
and I, even though we just met for this episode of Hold My Banner, I will say now we're old pals. It's like we're long lost first cousins or something. We're like family. I'm pretty sure I'll be at the Walker family reunion soon. It'll be fantastic.
Just 2 bald dudes that are tall getting along. That's what you and Antoine Walker.
Take it easy. All right, let's go to the WNBA here. Candace Parker.
Big news, man.
Thank you. Candace Parker announcing her retirement. I mean, I want to talk about her for a second because eventually I want to ask you about your WNBA Mount Rushmore here. But let's talk Candace Parker. She is the first player I can remember consistently dunking in game. Now, Lisa Leslie was the first one I saw do it in game, but it was such a monumental moment. Candace Parker is the first female player I can remember dunking on the reg and in game and just making it normal. And then when we saw Brittany Griner do it and others do it now, it's not as impactful because of what Candace Parker did. She made it normal. That's really the thing I think of, and obviously a champion and all that other stuff. But I think about her just coming down the lane and just dunking it and how awesome that was for the game.
When this news came, I said, whoa, because for me, as long as I can remember,
Yes.
Candace Parker has been playing women's hoops and been on the biggest stage. I mean, think about her in high school. Think about her in Tennessee winning 2 national championships.
Yes.
And when I'm really growing up and sports are truly resonating with me, watching SportsCenter after school, watching it before I go to sleep, or when I wake up in the morning,
That's right.
it would be Candace Parker highlights in a Tennessee Volunteers uniform, which would be the regular in those days.
Yep.
3-time WNBA champ, 2-time NCAA champion, top 10 all-time, top 5 all-time I'd give her
All-timer.
in women's basketball history. Only rookie to ever win Rookie of the Year and WNBA MVP, but also at her size as a forward, but with handles of a guard.
Yeah.
She revolutionized the game. You know, she
Tough
was
competitor.
the star before stars came to be.
Yep.
And we're looking at everything like what stage Sabrina Ionescu is on.
Sure.
Asia Wilson, who credits Candace Parker to who she modeled her game after.
Yeah.
To Kelsey Plum, of course, to Caitlin Clark. Candace was them before they got here.
Absolutely.
And she set the foundation for how much they will get paid eventually when they get a new CBA. But she was women's basketball, to me at least, growing up, my generation.
Yeah.
Wild to see her hanging up, but it's cool. You see her revolution from a college hoop star, WNBA star. Now she's doing the analyst thing. sitting
Yeah,
at the
and
desk,
she's great
so.
at that too. But just the tenacity she had as well, blocking shots, screaming, rebounds,
Mm-hmm.
in your face, diving for loose balls. She was all over the place. Absolute stud to her. All right, WNBA Mount Rushmore. Candace Parker's on both of ours, clearly.
yeah.
Yes?
3-time WNBA champion.
Yeah.
She won one with the Sparks, one with the Sky. She wasn't playing with the Aces, but still, you got to say her influence is there.
Okay, so she's
her last
there.
2 titles coming after 35 do it for me. She was top 10 with 1 title.
Yeah.
Retiring with 3, she's top 4.
So she's there for both of us. Diana Taurasi has to be on both of our lists.
Diana Taurasi, 3-time
Right?
WNBA champion, 10-time first team All WNBA, 5-time scoring champ. One team her entire career.
Okay, so 2 out of 4, we have duplicates here, right? This is where we differ. Ready?
Yeah. Who's your third?
I'm going Lisa Leslie,
I like it.
and I'm going Tina Thompson.
I like it.
Now, Tina Thompson, for all intents and purposes, I think, is one of the most underrated women basketball players of all time. You look up the all-time point scorer in the WNBA's, Diana Taurasi won and Tina Thompson too.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really talks about her big picture when we have these conversations. So I'm going to give her some props here. And then Lisa Leslie, I already told you. I mean, she is one of those trailblazers that kicked the door in for women's basketball. An ambassador of the game. Absolutely fantastic. You can make a case for GOAT for Lisa Leslie. I think it's Taurasi personally, but you can make a case for Lisa Leslie. I wouldn't argue with you. So those are my 4. Taurasi, Leslie, Candace Parker, Tina Thompson. Give me yours.
Cynthia Cooper
Oh,
is my third.
Coop.
Yeah. 4-time WNBA champion, finals MVP every time,
Yep.
2-time league MVP. Her 20.9 points per game is the best ever per game average in WNBA history. She scored at every level, brought the pick and roll game to the WNBA.
That's right.
And she never got to the league until she was 34 because after college, she started her career internationally where the money was.
Right.
And then finally came to the WNBA. Again, a different era there. Comes in, wins 4 titles, just one of the all-time greats. And I go Maye Moore. 4-time champion in a 7-year span, MVP, finals MVP, rookie of the year, 5-time first team all WNBA, 2-time all defense, and what she did off the court as well. I mean, she was a social justice leader.
was.
Going back to 2016, remember with the Minnesota Lynx, we're in the warm-ups, change starts with us. That was her response to the
right.
murders of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling.
Yep.
She also had a Dallas police shield on there, too, because of the 5 police officers that were killed during a Black Lives Matter protest that they were working. Stepped away from the game, overturned her future husband's wrongful conviction, and she's retired to do that full time. So she's a GOAT all-time off the court and a GOAT all-time on the court. So my Mount Rushmore, Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Cynthia Cooper, Maye Moore.
Can you imagine if Maye Moore never stepped away?
She'd have 7 titles.
Yes. Yes.
Like she won 4 in a 7-year span. If she
Right.
never walked away, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. I don't know.
She goes in that conversation of a lot of athletes that we talk about, later on down the line, and we say, boy, what if Jim Brown had played longer? What if Barry Sanders had played longer?
What if Jordan didn't play
What if
baseball?
Jordan that never left for baseball, right? She goes in that conversation too of if she never walked away from the game.
And-
but obviously we respect what she did.
And that's what I was going
but-
to say. You think about why she
Yeah.
walked away from the game is just like absolutely amazing. Grew up in Jeff City, Missouri. Obviously, went to school where she did, but just was elite
Oh.
at playing on the court, but everything she was doing off of it as well. I mean, like the impact you can say. plenty of athletes do something great, start their nonprofits, raise charity and stuff. But like, she actually went out there, made a difference happen. And it was just, she was an all-time at both, which 2 of the hardest careers, professional athlete, and then being a lawyer, whatever she was doing.
Hey, this draft class we just saw go in, though, they have a chance to crack this over time. For all of our best content of the day, make sure you follow us, would you? Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're all over the place like space, baby. Come on. The first one in the books, Travis Thomas, George Balekji. Boston has entered the chat.
It was a fun one, man.
It was a fun one, and they're all going to be fun ones. We'll do it again. We'll see you then. Peace.
Later.